Hey guys, I thought it'd be cool to put in a little sneak peek of what I normally put in for the patrons. I record episodes like this for the patrons all the time, and on a day when you normally get a TAC reload, a reloaded episode, I thought I'd put in some content that was more like what the patrons get a lot of days. For the obvious reason of trying to get you to become a patron. Patrons get content like this all the time, meaning short episodes without a lot of the preambles and the bios and ads. Just a little whisper of what patrons get all the time. With that, enjoy, and if you want to become a patron, there should be a Patreon link in the show notes. Carrying F.M.J for defense? Question mark. Or perhaps por qué? Like Spanish, we should do question mark. F.M.J for defense? Question mark. That's what we're going to talk about today. Hey guys, I appreciate you sticking with me. It is Friday. I'm driving home. Still got a little bit of things to do before Sabbath, but I am very much looking forward to it. And I wanted to get some content out for you guys. I appreciate you sticking with me, going and doing both jobs. I know that the audio quality and the editing and stuff is not what it used to be, maybe, but hopefully you guys still appreciate the content. So I wanted to get some out for F.M.J, for carry, for defense. When might it be a good idea? Or when might it be a good idea is probably more proper English. When might it be a good idea? So, these are exceptions to the rule. You probably should most of the time carry defensive ammunition, expanding type ammunition, whether you're talking about your classic hollow point for a handgun or soft pointed or some kind of plastic, elastic, synthetic tip, ballistic tip, or ballistic tip is kind of a brand name for nozzler, kind of like Jello is for gelatin, but you get the idea, like some kind of ballistic tip, some kind of soft point. Those should be your defaults. Not FMJ, but when does FMJ make sense? Well, kind of the easy out here is when that's what you have, right? If it gets apocalyptic out there and you've gone through and survived several gunfights and you're out of your hollow point carry ammunition. You've gone through a couple of magazines full of your go-to carry defensive hollow point loads, and that's all you have. Then hopefully you have an FMJ load that matches the point of aim, point of impact, and you can carry FMJ because this is what you have. So that's kind of one. And when it's what you have, let's say for your AR, you enlisted in the new Continental Army to fight off the Chinese or whatever, and it was militia, so you had to supply your own stuff, and you're out of hollow points. You're out of, Spear Gold Dot 55 grain 223. You're out of, any kind of expanding ammunition, and Full Metal Jacket is what you have. If it's what you have, it's what you have, and you make do with what you have. So when it's what you have, that's a big one. Another one is that's what you have, and that's what you train with all the time, and it's acceptable. One of the examples of this would be XM193. That's your classic 55 grain Full Metal Jacket with a cantilever, and it does mediocre at soft targets. It does really good if you grade it on a curve, right? If you're grading it on a curve, if you're grading it compared to other Full Metal Jacket loads, the 55 grain Full Metal Jacket, because of its velocity and its cantilever and its tendency to bend and tumble and things like that, it can do okay. It's not, I'm not telling you it's anywhere near as good as like a Spear Gold Dot or a Federal True Tactical Rifle Urban. It's not. But for a Full Metal Jacket, it does okay. So if you're stockpiling a bunch of ammo, it wouldn't be the worst choice in the world. There's a lot of worse choices I think you can get than XM193. One of those being Green Tip. I think Green Tip would by far be a worse choice. And the military makes do with that, so there you go. But when that's what you have, or that's what you can afford to stockpile and train with, and you're not going to go out and buy a bunch of magazines of Spear Gold Dot and train with them with your 223. So you're better off with XM 193 that you shoot and train with, and having your magazines that you know you can hit your target with. Because the best hollow point in the world, the best soft-pointed ballistic tip round in the world, Mark 262, is not going to do any good on the target if you don't hit the target. So that's a big caveat there. Another one for a situation is when you want more penetration. I like heavy for caliber and 9mm. I generally go to 147. You can get a little bit heavier, but generally 147 is where it tops out. I generally carry 147 hollow point ammunition for my fighting ammunition, and I generally will, if I'm shooting anything that requires any degree of accuracy, try and train with 147. Well, if it requires a high degree of accuracy, I should say. Any shooting requires some degree of accuracy. But if it requires a high degree of accuracy, I'll shoot a pretty analogous 147 grain full metal jacket. But if I'm going out hiking, and I might get some targets that require or may require a little bit more penetration, and I don't want expansion, because expansion and penetration are disproportional, right? If you increase the frontal diameter of a projectile, you're going to decrease its ability to penetrate. So if you want to tip the scales in favor of penetration, and again, this should not be your default, I probably shouldn't have to keep saying this, but I'm going to, just so you don't think I'm telling you to go out and carry full metal jacket all the time. But it shouldn't be your default. But if there's a situation where you may want more penetration, then you might want to carry like flat-fronted, truncated cone, 147 grain, and a 9mm. There are situations where I do that, so I would be a hypocrite to tell you that you shouldn't do that. There are certain situations where I think there's an advantage to that over a hollow point. And now it's not the majority, but there are situations for that where you want more penetration. What about situations where you might want to do less damage to the target? Now, this is not a great option, but if I had to take small game with a 9mm handgun, which I've done, I guess I didn't have to. I did it because it was a target of opportunity. It was the gun that I had. But if you get a chance to take game, you may not want an expanding projectile. You may just want a fairly clean pass-through. For that, full metal jacket might be better. So you might decide to use full metal jacket in that scenario for the opposite reason. You just want to do less damage, which is generally not what you want with a handgun. So there's that. Also, if you're on the threshold of penetration anyway, probably the bottom of probably the top end of this, like where I would consider it a wash. Like, you're right on the cusp. There are some really good modern 380 loads, but I would consider 380 marginal, and if you did your research and you said, for my barrel length, for what I'm doing, for in the winter in Chicago, or you probably can't even carry in Chicago, so never mind, but somewhere cold, you're like, I've decided that the benefits with 380 and full metal jacket outweigh the benefits of expanding ammo because of my situation, my potential targets, the climate, the feed, because I have a 380 that doesn't feed hollow points well, whatever the case may be. 380 is kind of that. I could go either way on 380, right? If you told me you carried a good expanding hollow point round that you did your research on and it'll expand out of your barrel length and it shoots point of aim, point of impact, I'd say good job. If you did the same thing with full metal jacket and that was your go-to, I'd say good job. I'm glad you're well researched and well studied on that topic. So that's kind of the teeter-totter. I could go one way or the other on that. And anything down from there. 32 ACP, I'd probably go F.M.J. 25 ACP, I'd probably go F.M.J. You get down to 22, and this, oddly, I could go either way. You're probably 6 of one, half a dozen of the other on 22 long rifle. If you were going to carry a 22 long rifle for defense, whether it was a rifle or a handgun, I would say the most important thing is that you test it out of your gun when fired by you, point of aim, point of impact. But let's just take a standard, classic CCI mini mag. If you said, I'm comfortable on my gun sighted in with 38 grain CCI mini mag hollow points, I'd say great, good job. They feed out of your gun, they function out of your gun, you've done your research, you're comfortable carrying those rounds. I'd say good for you. If you said I carry CCI mini mag 40 grain solids because I want more penetration and or they feed better and or that's just what my gun likes, I'd say good job. I'm glad you made an informed choice on that. I'm glad you did your research. Good job. But again, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Kind of like the 380 with the 22. You could justify it either way and probably equally be good as long as you did your own research. Not what you want to be true, but what's actually true when fired by you out of your gun. So, F.M.J might be the right choice for 22 or for 380 or some other smaller calibers. Oh, and one that is kind of made up, but it exists, is malum prohibitum, right? It's prohibited by the law. It's the law. It's not wrong by the laws of nature or the laws of God, which are dictated. The laws of nature are dictated by God, but it's not wrong in and of itself. It's not malum in se. It's not evil by nature. It's evil because, or it's wrong because man says that it's wrong. It's malum prohibitum. Like New Jersey, right? It's somehow considered okay to shoot somebody with a full metal jacket, but not with a hollow point. So in those kind of situations, that's kind of an artificial thing. But in those kind of situations, right, if you happen to have a carry permit in New Jersey, maybe you want to carry a full metal jacket because you don't want a good shooting and then you're not supposed to actually have hollow points. So even if you're justified in the shooting, you're not justified in having other hollow points. I'm not saying that's a good idea. I'm just saying that is another artificial reason that kind of exists. So malum prohibitum is another reason you may carry full metal jackets. In that case, I'd say maybe look at Federal Guard Dog. But anyway, with that, I appreciate you guys listening. I appreciate all that you do. I appreciate you sticking with me again through a pretty hectic schedule. Hopefully, I've told them and I've tried to remind them that I signed on for part-time, not full-time, and I'll try and keep reminding them of that, and hopefully the hours go down. But I appreciate all that you guys do, and I appreciate you sticking with me. Hopefully, I don't know when this will come out, but I'm recording it on a Friday afternoon. I hope you guys have a blessed and restful Sabbath. I'm really looking forward to actually seeing my wife and spending some time with my wife and getting some rest. Anyway, have a blessed weekend. Bye.